Ted Baldwin. Welcome to InsideLouisianaNews.com. Our guest today is State Treasurer John Kennedy. Welcome.
Thank you, Ted. Good
Glad
to be
you're
with
us.
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
What's new in the State Treasurer's office?
Well, we're all getting ready, of course, for Christmas, but after Christmas and New Year's comes a pretty busy spring. Legislature will start with reapportionment. Then comes the big issue of the budget. We've got some hard decisions to make. They're not hard to me. I think I know what we ought to do, but I realize that others disagree, and there will be it'll be a tension between, do we reduce the size of state government or do we raise taxes? That'll be one issue. And another issue would be, if we decide to reduce the size of state government, do we just make cuts, or do we really make changes that'll solve the problem in the long run?
I'm going to get into those areas in a moment. Let me ask you first, what made you think that being in politics would be any fun?
Well, I stumbled into politics. I was practicing law in New Orleans, had a little bit of involvement, this is in 1987, with Governor Romer's campaign, but not a lot. I mean, I gave him a little money, and after he was elected, and Governor Edwards quit the race, and Governor Romer became the de facto governor ahead of time, I got a phone call one day from him, and he needed some legal help in his transition. And someone had recommended me. I thought at first it was a joke, but I said, "Sure, Governor, I'll come up for a few weeks and help you." And I came up, and he asked me to stay, and I liked it. And I'll tell you what I enjoy about politics and government. You have good days and you have bad days, but you never have a boring day. There's always something happening. And I like policy. And if I want to go read about Medicaid changes and the Florida healthcare delivery system and spend an afternoon doing that, I can do it. When you're practicing law for a living, you can only do that if somebody's paying you. So, and clients don't generally pay for that sort of thing. So that's what I like about government.
You had a distinguished career as a student, Phi Beta Kappa, president of your school class. Went on, got an advanced degree, not just a law degree, but an advanced degree in law. And
I teach some.
You teach some?
Yeah, I teach out at LSU Law School every spring. I teach a con law course, so I kind of keep my hand in it.
What kind of law?
Constitutional law, state constitutional law.
Okay.
And I enjoy that a lot. It takes a lot of time, but it's worth it.
You have in your mind that you want to contribute to the state. You have in your mind somehow, when the call came, that you could step up and make a contribution. You still feel that way?
Yes.
After these years?
Yes. The silver bullets, the easy answers are gone. The fairy godmother's died. She's not coming back.
Don't say that. Kids, if you're out there
sorry,
watching,
kids,
it's not true.
But
she's resting.
But she's resting for Louisiana. But we're down to it. And we've
Good.
got to make some decisions about what services and products taxpayers are expected, entitled to receive from state government. We've got to make some decisions about whether we want to grow government or grow the private sector. I don't believe you can do both. We've got to make some decisions about the future of this state. And this budget fight, Ted, is not just about this year or next year. It's about where Louisiana is going to be a decade.
It's about changing the way Louisiana wants to live, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's about deciding what our priorities really are.
Now, you say that you can't grow government and grow the private sector at the same time, but government necessarily depends on the private sector.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
This money doesn't just fall from heaven. We thank heaven for it, but this money comes out of the pockets of people, business people, consumers, workers. They work hard for this money, and every penny we get, whether it's federal dollars or whether it's state dollars, it comes from taxpayers.
When you start looking at how to trim and where to tell people to start, I mean, I was looking at your website. You have almost $2.5 billion or more of cuts that you think can be made and still not cripple the state.
Right.
That people can adjust to and accept and get along with, and we still would grow. I guess the first question is, I saw there were 16,000 contracts lent for consultation. What kind of services are being purchased from those 16,000 contracts? I mean, what are we What is that?
Well, you're right. I do say we have 16,000. I just learned something the other day, though. The Legislative Fiscal Office put out a report that we have 19,000.
Oh.
We spend between $7.5 and $10 billion a year. And many of those contracts are necessary, but some of them are not priorities.
Well, what are they?
Well, for example, we have a contract to encourage people to use seat belts. We have a contract with an Oakland, California company to analyze how our kids play at recess. We have another contract to, I'm not making these up, to teach people how to use Facebook.
Okay. Are there any federal dollars attached with those?
There are, of these 19,000, some are federal dollars, but many of them involve state money. And you know, when some of my critics say, well, this is federal money, my response is we shouldn't be wasting federal taxpayer dollars any more than state. But what my proposal is that we take every one of these consulting contracts and we ask ourselves a simple question: is the expenditure for this consultant as important or more important than our priorities? If our priorities are higher education, health care, coastal restoration, roads, elementary and secondary education, is this contract more important than those things, or as important? If the answer is yes, then you keep the contract. But if the answer is no, you talk about eliminating it. And I think if we do that, we can easily eliminate 10% of these contracts that are not priorities. For the remaining contracts, we should turn to these vendors, many of whom have done business with Louisiana for years, and say, look, we're in a tough spot here for the next couple of years. You've made a lot of money off the state. I'm not saying we haven't gotten service for that in value, but we want you to give us a 5% reduction in your contract each year for the next 2 years. They're not going to say no, not in this economy. If we do those two things, eliminate 10%, ask for a modest 5% reduction in the remaining consulting contracts, I think we could easily save $500 million to $1 billion of taxpayer money.
Do you put, if you eliminate 10%, 1,600 contracts, straight out, do you put 1,600 people on the welfare? Do you destroy 1,600
Well, you know,
businesses?
that's a good question. That's a very good question. I'm asked that question a lot, not just in terms of the contracts, but in terms of downsizing the number of state government jobs. I don't believe that government exists to create jobs for the state. I believe government exists to create an environment in which the private sector can create jobs. So I don't look at state government, or federal or local for that matter, as an employment agency. I see my job as state treasurer to deliver the vital services and products that our people are entitled to expect from government at in the most efficient way at the cheapest price. And if that means eliminating some of these consulting contracts, and many of these consultants are out of state, by the way, if that means reducing the number of state positions, my response is that's something that I was elected to do.
I think my question went more to, probably, I guess, some of these people would have more than one contract with the state. So, and I agree with you. I don't think the state needs to be in that particular business just for the sake of being in the business.
Well, the way I've always looked at it, Ted, and I know others don't always agree, but every dollar we take from people to run government is a dollar less that they have to invest in things that are important to them, whether they're a business person or a worker or a consumer. And I generally believe that people know their own priorities at least as well as government knows their priorities. So if you look at it from that standpoint, yes, we have to have some tax dollars to run government to deliver vital services, but every dollar we take that we don't need really hurts the economy, because I believe the private sector can invest this money better than we can.
For years, you were allied with the Democratic Party. You were ran as a Democrat, and then you switched in what, 2007.
Yeah,
you became a Republican.
Yes,
Is that right?
yes.
Okay. So, what was with the prevailing winds at the time you were a Democrat? Did you run towards the liberal, and all of a sudden decide to become conservative? Have you always been conservative, or
That's a good question. You know, party's never been the most important thing in my political life. My first job was with a Democrat who became a Republican, Governor Romer. Then as a Democrat, I went to work for Governor Foster. I've always been very much a conservative, particularly a fiscal conservative. Party didn't really matter for a long time in Louisiana politics.
Well, there was only one party essentially, wasn't there?
Well, but even as the Republican Party grew, you didn't see a lot of the Republican versus Democrat in the legislature. That's changed, of course. But it got to the point where I would have these ideas, and as a Democrat, and they were generally pretty fiscally conservative, and I would go to the legislature, and the only people that would support me would be the Republicans, and my party wouldn't support me. And one day I said, you know, this isn't working anymore. I'm the same guy, but this isn't working anymore. I just feel more comfortable in the Republican Party, so I switched. And I did it before my last election, so people would know. I didn't wait to get reelected and then switch. I did it before, so everybody'd know ahead of time. And I was lucky, I guess. I didn't have opposition, but I wanted people to know what I was going to do ahead of time. And some people, some of my supporters liked it and others didn't, but you know, I told them I am who I am.